How important is deadlifting and squatting? If your goal is to be a bodybuilder, deadlifts can lead to a risk of injury. Even my own mother, a lot of my dancing clients, I get them to do. What's good, YouTube? And welcome back to the channel, The Last Natty. Checking in. So in my last YouTube video, I went to a seminar that was hosted by Thor Bjornsson, the mountain himself, the man who deadlifted 510 kilograms. I went to his strength coach seminar, Seb Orub, which was absolutely fantastic, and I can't say enough amazing things about Seb, the way he presents himself, communicates, and the knowledge that he shared with us all, including how to bench, deadlift, and squat correctly. That got me thinking, especially the next day where I went and implemented the specific tips that he gave me. I was fortunate enough where he spent a good 10 minutes just speaking with me and giving me tips directly how to deadlift correctly. And again, it got me thinking, how important is deadlifting and squatting? Is it something that you should be thinking about for your own training regimen? So let's break this down. Deadlifts, the cons. Deadlifts can lead to a risk of injury, especially when our ego gets in the way and we try to lift heavy weight, especially when we try to do this without building the foundation and progressively overloading correctly and efficiently and safely over a certain amount of time. People think of the deadlift as a 1 rep max exercise, and that kind of mentality, especially early on in your lifting career, can definitely lead to injury. If your goal is to be a bodybuilder or to really optimize the highest amount of muscle that you can put on, deadlifts are not the best exercise. Bodybuilding is not about moving as much weight as possible or necessarily being the strongest athlete as possible. Bodybuilding is really focused on time under tension, controlling the muscle, taking the muscle through a full range of motion, where we think about the concentric contraction, the eccentric, and even the isometric contraction of the muscle. Deadlifts don't do that. Third con, deadlifts can be very overwhelming, especially when you think about all the cues that you need to do to perform the deadlift correctly. If you have just gone and watched a YouTube tutorial, which can be absolutely fantastic and a great learning point, but if you don't feel confident to be able to implement those cues that you've learned online, especially specific to your body, your body's biomechanics, your experience in just weight training period, and you don't have someone who can maybe give you some tips and give you specific tips, just like I got specific tips from Seb Orub, just like I've had personal training with the same trainer that I've had since I was 17 years of age. Wow, that's a long time. 17 years of age, that's like 20, let me get this right. That's over a decade that I've been with my trainer for. But if you don't have someone who can help you and perform the exercise efficiently, safely, and confidently, it can be overwhelming, and that can again increase risk of injury. Saying that, let's talk about the pros, which I'm more on the side of pro when it comes to deadlift. Even though I'm a bodybuilder, I am pro deadlift. So let's break that down. I mentioned before that deadlifts can definitely increase the risk of injury. However, when learning how to perform a deadlift and you are being taught how to hip hinge correctly, how to brace your trunk correctly, how to engage your glutes and not flex your lower back, essentially bend over excessively, is a great way to strengthen your posterior chain and build the muscles that we need to be able to do day-to-day activities. When you pick up your shoes, when you grab the groceries, when you move furniture, especially a couch, when you do gardening, whether you're a 31-year-old who has children, well, I don't have children, but a lot of my friends are starting to have children. You want to play with your kids. Maybe you're about to get married and you want to practice how to dip your wife. You have to be really strong, have a strong posterior chain. Having a strong back, glutes, and trunk is so important to be able to do those day-to-day activities safely. And so many people, especially the clients that I see who have lower back pain, a lot of those people, it's because they don't know how to embrace their trunk, and how to engage their glutes correctly and to be able to hip hinge again correctly and safely. And the deadlift can be a great way to teach people those cues and get stronger with those particular muscles. Again, those muscles, those movement patterns that we need to do on a day-to-day basis. So many of my clients in their 50s, their 60s, even my own mother, I get them to deadlift. I really make sure I teach them the correct way to deadlift. When we look at sports, athletes, there are many skills to be able to be a good athlete, whatever sport that may be. But strength is so important when it comes to so many different sports, whether that's rugby, soccer, fighting, even dancing. A lot of my dancing clients, I get them to do strength-based exercise. I get them to deadlift, I get them to squat, where they're learning to really focus on embracing their trunk, which is so important, that posterior chain in dancing, to be able to be strong when it comes to that interaction with your partner and how you move your body. To be able to move your body efficiently and prevent injury, building strength is absolutely important, because when you build strength, that athlete is then able to implement that strength into their specific sport so they can perform at their highest level, so they can be their very best and win in their sport that they're doing. I'm not saying that you have to be strong to be able to do these sports, but to perform even more efficiently, it can be a fantastic way to be able to perform in a meaningful and important activity such as several sports. I mentioned it's not the greatest exercise if your goal is to just focus purely on optimizing the most amount of muscle that you want to build. It is still a great exercise to build strength and build muscle, because at the end of the day, weight training, putting muscle under load, is gonna build a bigger muscle, is gonna build strength. So it absolutely is a great way to build strength and muscle. Deadlifts and moving, shifting weight that is heavy, but that is relatively safe for each individual, is a great way to put load through our skeletal system and strengthen our bones. Our skeletal system is the structure that allows us to move, to be able to do, again, daily living tasks safely and efficiently. Having stronger bones, stronger muscles is gonna reduce the risk of falls. And I can say the exact same things for squats, especially if we try to ego lift, if we don't do the technique, if we don't perform the exercise safely. When it comes to a bodybuilding perspective, squats are absolutely fantastic, but what is your goal? Is your goal to build your hip extensors or to build quads? Because that's gonna change how we perform the squat pattern. If your goal is to be able to really build your hip extensors and shift, move as much weight as possible, you're gonna wanna push your hips back and not get as much knee flexion. If your goal is to build more quadriceps, which for me as a bodybuilder, when I squat, this is the kind of mentality I have, and I think about changing my squat pattern where I get really more knee flexion. I'm keeping myself more upright. I'm finding machines where I can really squash my hamstrings and calves together. But for your day-to-day person, again, a squat, being able to build stronger glutes, able to really teach someone to embrace their trunk, putting weight through their muscular and the skeletal system, has nothing but benefits and pros. So I'm hoping with this information, you can reflect, think about what your goals are. Think about your specific needs, whether that's maybe you're in a rehabilitation phase, maybe you're in a strength phase, a muscle building phase, maybe you just want to get active. Reflecting on all those individual factors, reflecting on what your goals are, I'm hoping then you can make the right choices. But if you're gonna perform these exercises, they need to be done safely, efficiently. That can also include going to having personal training sessions, having someone teach you how to do these exercises specifically, because every person has biomechanics, different limb lengths, different depths of where our joints sit into the sockets, and all those things can be factors on how you perform these exercises efficiently for your body. So personal trainers like myself, plug in my personal training services, can be a great way to be able to do these excellent exercises safely. If you enjoyed this video, give it a big thumbs up, click that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys for the next video. The last natty checking out. See ya.